We've all felt that pull, haven't we? That sort of deep human craving to know what's coming next, especially when life feels really uncertain or you're just standing at a crossroads looking for answers. And in those moments, there are always people who promise they have those answers. But sometimes those promises are nothing more than a really carefully crafted illusion designed to exploit you. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the pretty insidious world of fortune-telling scams. We're going to pull back the curtain on how these sophisticated confidence tricks actually work, who they target relentlessly, and the absolutely devastating wreckage they leave behind, financially and emotionally.
Right. And our mission here really is to dissect the complex psychological stuff, the methods behind this kind of fraud. We want to shed light not just on, where they came from historically, but how common they are now and the legal challenges around them. It's tricky. We've looked at detailed reports, some fascinating case studies in the legal analyses too, to really lay bare how these deceptions work for you.
Okay, so let's unpack this. When we talk about fortune-telling fraud, we're talking about a specific kind of con game, right? What's the basic definition?
Exactly. At its heart, it's when someone pretends to be a psychic or a fortune teller. They claim they have supernatural powers, and then they diagnose these totally made-up problems, curses, bad karma, evil spirits, that sort of thing. And the key part is they demand money for rituals or treatments, promising they'll fix these completely fabricated issues. It's a closed loop, really.
And what's really fascinating, and honestly quite chilling, is how much it relies on psychological manipulation. We hear cold reading, but how is it used here? It's more than just guessing, isn't it?
Oh, it's much more sophisticated.
Right.
Cold reading, in this context, it's cleverly designed to tap into our need to find meaning, to connect. The scammer makes these general, ambiguous statements that somehow feel incredibly specific to the victim. They're not just guessing blindly. They're watching you closely, body language, your reactions, your emotional state, tailoring what they say on the fly. It makes you do the work, convincing yourself they have real insight. It builds this powerful, false sense of trust. That's the trap.
Okay, so if that's how they build the trust, who are they actually targeting? Who's most vulnerable here?
Well, they almost always go after people who are experiencing some kind of deep emotional distress. Think about people dealing with intense grief or maybe profound loneliness, serious money troubles, health scares, even gamblers who are just desperate for their luck to turn. These vulnerabilities, they make people much more open to, fear-based persuasions, quite calculated.
And it seems like they're really good at creating this intense sense of urgency that you have to act now or else kind of pressure.
Absolutely, that's key. Victims are often told, look, unless you act immediately, and acting usually means paying up, sometimes big money, or handing over valuables, things will get much worse. Maybe illness, disaster, even death. This taps right into what we call confirmation bias. The victim starts interpreting these vague warnings as super personal and accurate, which just reinforces their belief in the psychic's powers. They plant the seed, but you water it.
Right. This is where it gets really disturbing for me. Can you walk us through the typical steps? How do they actually pull someone in and then, ramp up the scam?
It often starts quite subtly. The initial contact might be through an easy-to-find place, a psychic shop, maybe a hotline, or increasingly social media. They often hook you with a free or cheap first reading, and that's where the cold reading really gets to work, building that quick, false connection. Once they feel they have your trust, that's when they introduce the crisis, the fabricated problem, that curse or negative energy or whatever it is they claim you have.
And this problem is then somehow proven with what sounds like, stage magic almost, sleight of hand tricks to make it seem real. What's a common example?
A classic one is the bujo scam, sometimes called the egg curse. The victim brings an egg, right? Then the scammer cracks it, but maybe they've swapped it or tampered with it beforehand using sleight of hand, and suddenly there's foul stuff inside or weird symbols, proof of the curse. The word bujo itself, it apparently comes from Romani, meaning bag, but now it refers to these kinds of swindles, often involving swapping money for, worthless paper. It shows that theatrical element they use to convince you.
Okay, so the crisis is created, it's seemingly verified with a trick. Then comes the money part, and the demands start small but then escalate, right?
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Oh, absolutely. It starts small, maybe a minor ritual fee, seems manageable, but then it escalates quickly. Suddenly you need more intensive spiritual work, or they demand gold offerings, maybe sacrificial ceremonies, expensive protective items. Victims get convinced to hand over life savings, sell their homes, take out huge loans, and here's a really cruel twist. Often the money or valuables themselves are declared cursed. They have to be cleansed or destroyed or hidden away by the psychic, which of course just means they're stolen.
And the amounts involved can be just unbelievable. I mean, reading about cases like Ann Thompson, the psychic Zoe, getting $740,000 from one woman in New York,
Yeah.
claiming gold purchases were needed to lift curses. Or Janet Lee, the Greenwich psychic, convincing someone to hand over their entire life savings in cash for a cleansing at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and then vanishing. It's just heartbreaking.
It truly is. It shows the incredible psychological hold they get. And another shocking one, that tarot reader in Florida who took over $25 million from the romance novelist Jude Devereaux. What you see in all these cases is that careful buildup of trust, the ruthless exploitation of vulnerability, and then this relentless escalation. It slowly strips people of everything.
That brings up a really crucial question, though. Why? Why do people keep paying? Sometimes for years, even after losing so much. It seems baffling from the outside.
Yeah, it does. A big part of it is the sunk cost fallacy. It's a psychological trap, and scammers are masters at setting it. They don't ask for everything at once, see? They start small, building up the victim's investment, not just money, but time, hope, deep emotional commitment. Eventually, the thought of stopping feels like giving up entirely. Like all the money and effort already spent would be for nothing. They believe, I've put so much in, I have to see it through. Scammers exploit this perfectly by creating this endless cycle. New threats pop up, requiring new costly solutions. It keeps the victim hooked financially.
And that emotional investment, it just digs the hole deeper, making it almost impossible to walk away even if doubts start creeping in. It sounds like a truly vicious cycle.
It is. And connecting this to the bigger picture, these scams, they've definitely evolved. They aren't just happening in dimly lit parlors anymore. We're seeing these more modern, sometimes highly organized versions. Things like dodgy apps charging you for in-app stuff with zero real value, fake psychics all over social media using fake reviews, phishing emails, and then you have organized groups like the Merino clan in Hawaii. They use those egg tricks to get luxury goods, apparently.
And then there are examples that are even more disturbing, like the Unification Church in Japan, accused of spiritual sales, Raikon Shush, I think it's called.
That's right.
Where they pressure members into donating huge amounts, threatening damnation if they don't,
Yeah.
resulting in, nearly $900 million in damages by 2021?
Mm-hmm.
That specific case, with that scale of damage and the tragic link to Shinzo Abe's assassination, it really drives home how far-reaching and devastating these organized operations can be.
It absolutely does. That link tragically highlights the extreme consequences, socially and personally, when these coercive systems become embedded. It's a stark reminder that these aren't just isolated scams. They can be part of much larger systematic exploitation.
Okay, so we've mapped out how these scams work, the terrible impact. But what about justice? Prosecuting these cases sounds incredibly difficult. What are the main challenges?
Oh, it's hugely challenging. That line between a protected spiritual belief and outright criminal fraud, it's very blurry for the legal system. Fortune-telling itself, as an activity, often gets First Amendment protection-free speech. So you can only really prosecute when there's clear proof of deception for financial gain. In places like New York, yeah, fortune-telling is technically illegal unless it's just for entertainment, but usually charges fall under broader things like grand larceny, especially if the loss is over $1,000. But the real uphill battle for prosecutors is proving criminal intent. The defendant can always just claim, no, I genuinely believed I was helping spiritually. It's hard to disprove that internal belief.
Wow. But despite those hurdles, there are people fighting back, making a real difference. You mentioned Bob Nygaard.
Yes, Bob Nygaard. He's a retired NYPD officer who became a private investigator focusing specifically on these cases. He's done remarkable work. Since about 2008, he's helped secure convictions against roughly 40 psychics and helped victims recover over $4 million. Now, he'll be the first to tell you, getting the actual money back, the restitution, is tough. These fraudsters are experts at hiding assets. But his impact in bringing them to justice is undeniable.
And it's crucial to remember this is still happening. Like that recent arrest in July 2025, Hemant Kumar Munepa on Long Island allegedly took $20,000, tried for another $42,000 from a 68-year-old woman, claiming he needed money to purchase the power to fight evil spirits. He got hit with grand larceny, attempted grand larceny, and fortune-telling charges. It just shows this isn't some old story. It's an active threat right now.
Exactly. So for you, the listener, the question becomes, how do you spot this? How do you protect yourself? There are definite warning signs to look out for. First, be very suspicious of guarantees. Guarantees of specific outcomes, promises of huge sums of money coming your way. Red flag. Any request for large amounts of cash, especially under pressure for a quick decision, big red flag. Claims about curses or negative energy that only they can remove, usually for a hefty price. Alarm bells should be ringing. Watch out for those cold reading techniques we talked about or any kind of sleight of hand trickery. And never give out personal or financial details easily. Finally, be aware of those psychological tactics, confirmation bias, sunk cost fallacy, using fake reviews or social proof. Knowing about them helps you resist them.
Yeah, and my direct advice for prevention is pretty straightforward. Stay informed, know these tactics exist, be incredibly skeptical of anyone claiming supernatural powers or guaranteeing results. Don't share personal or financial info with strangers. And always, always talk to trusted friends or family before making any big financial decision related to these kinds of services. Trust your gut. If it feels wrong or too good or too scary to be true, it probably is.
Right.
So what we've really seen today is this complex web of deception behind fortune-telling scams. It goes from deep psychological manipulation to theatrical tricks, and it causes just terrible financial devastation.
Right.
But despite the legal tangles, people are fighting back.
And the key takeaway for all of us, I think, is the importance of critical thinking, especially when we're feeling vulnerable, when we're looking for answers or comfort. Question those promises that seem too easy or too extreme. Real solutions rarely involve handing over your life savings based on fear.
Which leaves us with a final thought to consider. Given that deep human need